Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm ready to do my full review on this sucker. This is the Zero Tolerance 0707, and it was loaned to me by way of Jeff from Cutlery Shoppe. Cutlery Shoppe is one of my preferred retailers. They are awesome, they do a great job. I've only ordered from them really once or twice, and I should probably change that because I like them a lot. I like Jeff, the owner, a lot. He's in the Millie PM2 Para 3 Club with me, and so we interact every now and then in there. And recently we were both on kind of a live chat there with Jason and Thomas of the group, and we were talking about knives, and I mentioned that I'd be sending something to Thomas to have him check out, and Jeff asked, since Thomas said he was going to send me something, if Thomas could send this to me as well to check out. And I said, yeah, I've been meaning to check out this knife. So I appreciate it, Jeff, and I'll link to Cutlery Shoppe down below. So the 707 is a very slender, interesting knife to me. This is nothing that ZT would have made 8 or 10 years ago. It's nothing like it. This is the new ZT. But there is a lot of interesting stuff happening on this knife, and a lot of good happening here as an EDC offering. ZT used to say on their packaging, built like a tank. They don't anymore. They don't build knives like tanks anymore, really. The 308 you could probably kind of say is the most built like a tank. I have one of those and I like it. But they're doing a lot more lightweight, a lot more slim, a lot more pocket-friendly, like EDC knives, right? And this is a testament to that. So it's a Sinkovich design, and it has some interesting things going on. The most interesting to me is that it has this dual detent system. So on the lock bar here, you can see we have an insert. So there's a stainless steel insert on the titanium lock bar, and that also has a detent ball on it. That is the primary place where you'll see a detent on pretty much any knife. However, on the carbon fiber side, they've gone ahead and they've machined in or milled out a little pocket. I doubt it'll be possible to show you, but in there's a little pocket, and in that pocket they've put another detent on a little bit of kind of like a liner. It's got some give to it, and so you've got these two detent balls, one on either side of the tang. And what that does is, because this knife is so slim, and in general this is kind of an issue with frame locks, a lot of people, when they go to use a frame lock flipper, they put pressure on the lock bar, because that's where you want to hold it to make sure the knife doesn't fly out of your hand when you press the flipper tab, right? So on this one, what that does is it allows there to be some give in the other direction with that second detent, from what I understand. And you can press on that lock bar nice and hard and still deploy the knife. And I'm literally pressing on it hard. On other knives that I have owned, or probably even some that I have right now, if I did that, the knife would not deploy. It would be locked up, and I'd have to move my fingers off of that lock bar in order to get it open. So it's an interesting workaround for kind of a flaw in some frame locks. And it works. What the disadvantage to that is that this knife, even though it's on bearings, it's on bearings, even though it's on bearings, and it's a frame lock, which would otherwise probably make it quite drop shutty, it's not drop shutty at all. So it's got tension the whole way down because there's detents pressing on it from both directions as it's closing. Now, it's not like gritty or rough on closing. It doesn't feel bad. It's just not drop shutty. So if you're someone who doesn't care whether a knife is drop shutty or not, which I know there are a lot of people out there, I happen to like when knives are drop shutty, but if you don't care, then cool. You just push the knife closed the whole way along and it goes just fine. So I find that really interesting that they've put that kind of technology in here. Another thing worth noting that they're doing at ZT for some reason lately is they have put these same holes through the knife. Let me see if I can show you with sky behind it. See how there's this pass through here? The only thing I can guess is that that's literally just an aesthetic choice from ZT, that's something that they think looks cool internally. I don't necessarily think it looks bad. I've heard a lot of people gripe about it because it's another way to get gunk into your knife, and this knife runs on bearings. It's not a good thing to put a window into the knife right where the bearings are. in terms of longevity of the bearings, in a lot of people's opinion, and I'd probably agree with that. I don't think that this knife is better because they cut this hole in it. Not sure why they're doing that. Like I said, I have to assume they're probably just doing it for looks, but I don't think this knife would look worse without that hole in it. I guess it's kind of cool to have a hole passing through. I can see through the knife. I don't know. It's a thing that's on here. That's all I'll say about that. I haven't had an issue on my ZT-308, which has the same holes like this, but I don't carry that knife a ton, to be honest. I've carried it a fair bit of times. I've carried it outdoors, I've carried it EDC. I haven't had issues with the bearings gunking up yet. But it's still just like, why are you making it an option for stuff to get in there? I don't know. Let's talk about the materials of this knife, and then I'll talk about fit and finish, ergos, action, all that kind of stuff. So we obviously have a carbon fiber show scale, and then we have a blade of CPM 20 CV. It's done quite well. It gets relatively thin. We have a titanium lock side, and it's got some kind of micro milling on it. And then we've got this nice minimalist little bent over pocket clip. It comes in kind of where this, it screws into the titanium in, it looks like, well, I guess it's one spot. It uses the barrel spacer screw to screw in, and it does look like it's reversible because there is a pocket for it on the other side. One thing that's interesting, I freaked out for a moment. I thought I had lost one of the body screws because there's barrel spacer screwed in right here, barrel spacer screwed in right here, but it looks like the screw head is missing. And so I was like, oh my goodness, did I lose a screw on this loaner knife? How would that even be possible? I haven't disassembled it, I haven't done anything to it, haven't even taken a driver to it. So I was like, how is that possible? Turns out this last body screw just screws all the way through. I think that has to do with the clip being reversible. But yeah, I did not lose the screw. It just happens to have this weird asymmetrical, like all the hardware looks the same except for this one, where it's one screw that screws way deeper. So I didn't lose it. That's good. But it looks a little funky. Now that every time I look at the lock side of the knife now, I can't unsee that it looks like there's a missing screw back there. So that's a thing as well. Let's talk about the ergos first. So as you can tell, this handle is very slim. Really, really slim this way. And it's pretty slim this way. It is a small knife. It's long, but it's small. So I was pleasantly surprised that these ergos actually feel pretty good to me. A lot of really slender knives feel like they're at risk of just kind of slipping out of my hand. The form factor on here, the way that this handle is shaped with these relatively subtle kind of curves and bends, it fills the hand quite well for me considering how small it is. We do have a little bit of jimping right up here. It's not problematic jimping, it's pretty unaggressive, which is nice. I don't like really aggressive jimping. The only other jimping is on the flipper tab itself, so I feel pretty locked into this knife. There's not a lot of texture happening. It's not super slick, but it's a fairly smooth knife, and so without having really aggressive texturing on the materials, I'm glad to find that it feels as locked in as it does. For EDC tasks, like cardboard zip ties, my normal EDC stuff, this knife feels great for that kind of stuff. It doesn't even appear to be built for hard use stuff, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to count it against it, that it doesn't feel very inclined to chopping. Of course it doesn't. Look, it's like a toothpick. This isn't a chopper. So that's fine. I like the ergos. It's pretty good in a reverse grip. I actually quite like it, reverse grip. Reverse grip draw cut is fine. Saber grip is good, hammer grip is good, forward draw cut is good. It's a neutral enough handle shape that nothing's poking or prodding me. The pocket clip being so tiny and minimalist, I don't even really feel it in my hand, honestly. I like that about it. It's an interesting pocket clip, and we'll talk more about that. But yeah, the ergos are good. The action, I already talked about a little bit. It deploys nicely. It has a different sound to it with those detents. It just has this like clickety-clacketyness that I don't find in other knives. It has a distinct sound, but it deploys well. It doesn't drop shut, as I mentioned. So that's the action. Not crazy exciting, but it works and it deploys every time. I haven't had issues with deployment. Let's talk about carry. So This knife, as you can probably tell, is awesome to have in pocket. It's super slim. The flipper tab doesn't really protrude much, plus it's kind of in the spot where the knife has started angling downwards anyways. The angle it sits in pocket is very good. It's a nice deep carry clip that comes all the way to the butt end of the knife. That's my favorite. There's no hardware under the clip that's getting in the way of anything. The pocket clip is probably the smallest pocket clip. It's one of the smallest I've ever experienced on a knife. And I think a lot of people are holding that against the knife, maybe aesthetically. Maybe they've used it and it didn't work well for them. This pocket clip works great for me. I like the idea of keeping a pocket clip small. All I need a pocket clip to do is hold the knife in position in my pocket and keep it from falling out and keep it from falling too deep in that I can't grab it. It's just to keep it on the edge of my pocket. I don't need it to be a Chavez skull clip that just screams, I want to murder everybody around me. That's too harsh. Those pocket clips aren't that bad. But there are a lot of pocket clips out there that are just really big, and after experiencing this one, I find myself scratching my head as to why people keep making such big pocket clips. Because this does everything a pocket clip is supposed to do for me, and it does it well. And it looks nice in the pocket that I've just got this little thing there. It's pretty inconspicuous. I like a lot about it. So yeah, it really makes me ponder why so many people are making pocket clips so big. Is that just the trend? Is there an advantage that they see to having a larger pocket clip? I don't know, but I like this one a lot. I like the way it rides. I like the way it positions the knife in my pocket. I like that it mounts kind of internally, loops over, that gets it all the way to the butt end. It's just very good. So I like this pocket clip, and I'd be curious to know why others don't, unless it's aesthetics. If people just don't like the way it looks, that's fine. But I had no issues. I carried this knife just a handful of times. I didn't use it all that much because it's a loner, but I made a couple of just kind of like little test cuts with it. And each time that I carried it, I was floored by how well this knife carries in pocket. It's so slim in every direction. It's nice and lightweight because it's carbon and titanium. The blade stock isn't overly thick, so there's not a ton of weight happening there. It's just a nice, lightweight, slim little knife. If I had a Benchmade 940, I'd probably do a comparison between this and the Benchmade 940, because I don't really like the Benchmade 940 all that much. I like it, but I don't love it. And the fact that a lot of people talk about it as like the end-all be-all of EDC knives, like it's the greatest ever, makes me dislike it a little, because I disagree. I don't think it's a very good EDC knife. I think it does, however, carry really well. And this does a lot of the same things, carry-wise, that the 940 does. And this one is thinner behind the edge. You get more blade length. There are some advantages here, I think. So I think that would be an interesting comparison. But I don't have both knives. This is a loaner, so it's going away as well. But maybe someone who has both can do that comparison. I'd be curious to see it. So yeah, this is it's an interesting offering from ZT. Like I said at the beginning, this is something that I would never have expected from ZT even 5 years ago. I wouldn't have imagined that they'd be making this knife. But they make it well. And I'm always torn on it, because part of me wants ZT to just be the built like a tank company that they used to be. But they're not that anymore. They just aren't. And I do like the knives that they're coming out with. I've yet to try a ZT that I really disliked. They make a couple offerings I'm not at all interested in, but even the ones that I'm just like meh about, usually when I handle them, carry them, experience them, I find that they're really good knives. And so, I don't know, I wish they would almost just like make two companies. Like there's already Kershaw and ZT, but maybe if ZT could have a split where they keep making tactical, overbuilt, tank, crazy knives, and then they also have like an EDC line called something else that has the knives like this. I think that would make more sense in my brain. But it's also probably not that fair of me to really hold it against them that they've evolved and they're making knives that probably make more sense in the market today. Some of them I think don't, but some do. Anyways, who am I to really tell ZT what to do? Just thinking out loud here. Anyways, this is a nice offering. The 707 is a cool knife. It's not something that's like really my style on paper, but I like it. I think if it did drop shut a little bit better. I'd honestly like it more. Fidgeting with a knife is important to me, and this knife isn't very fun to fidget with. But to other people, that double detent system is probably a distinct advantage, that even when you're pressing on the lock bar on a slim knife like this, it's going to deploy every time. So it is cool. I guess that's all I have to say about it. It carries well, it cuts well, it carries very well, I should say. That's definitely the strong point of the knife. I think it looks pretty good for what it is. I do find it off-putting every time I think that I lose that screw back there. But yeah, this is the ZT707. Thank you again to Jeff from Cutlery Shoppe for letting me check it out, and I appreciate it. I'm glad to be friends with Jeff. This is a cool knife, and Cutlery Shoppe is a good retailer. They're absolutely one that I have no problem recommending. Not only have I only had good experiences with them, but I seem to only ever hear positive things about them. I'm sure everyone every now and then has a mistake business-wise, but I consistently see the nicest reviews of Cutlery Shoppe and the way that they treat their customers. So, very good. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.